Hi, my name is Kendall Delaney and I'm a celebrant based in Stirling. I'm so excited to pass my wedding training. So I thought what I'd do today is to go through my celebrant kit bag because this is something I've just been starting to put together and I am so excited about it all. So my bag itself comes with a little adorable, I don't know if you guys can see that, can you? There we go, little dog keyring, which was a present from a colleague when I passed my training. So lovely of her. And it means too that with just being a black bag I can identify it as being mine. Now inside, what's it got in its pockets, his precious? Yeah, tragic Lord of the Rings geek here. God, so many exciting things. So, most importantly, we have to have your ceremony. So I always have these presentation folders. I like a big A4 one. I like the solidity of it. Gives me something to hold on to. So we'll have that printed out really big, and I'll always keep some hankies in the front there and some of my business cards too. That's all very handy. So my last one. We'll also have for you guys to keep a copy of your ceremony that's printed out and made to look really bonny, and we put it into one of our HSS folders. So that's a pretty version for you guys to keep. So that's the main thing. Depending what kind of ceremony it is, there's some sort of key essentials as well, so I can chat you through those two. So, first one, I've got my date book, so I keep everything in here. I'm very much a pen and pencil kind of, pen and paper kind of gal, you know what I mean. So this was a present from a colleague when I passed my training, very lovely of her. The charming Lindsay Brunton is also Stirling based, and she's been keeping an eye on me during my training. That's that. And then I have bags with other exciting things. You'll note the tragic Harry Potter theme through these bags. I make no apologies. Fully aware that I'm a complete geek. So, within here we've got some bits and pieces that we would use across a variety of ceremonies. So, if we start you off, most of the things in here are sort of emergency supplies. So, for example, we have, for the great outdoors, mid repellent. We are in Scotland, ladies and gentlemen. We all know we're going to need it. I've also got, for the rarer occasions, sunblock. Handy to have about. Now this one was a hint I got from the lovely Mary Wallace, who is out in Doon, and she carries about, ta-da! So this takes creases out of clothes, which if you've been driving to a ceremony, which a lot of us do, you know, myself, I'm really happy to travel and come and see you guys wherever you are. It means that if we've been a bit crinkly from being in the car, that we can be all presentable again. That's that one. And in here, just because it's a wee bit bulky, I have a spare candle, which we might use either to light in memory of somebody, or it might be that it's used to show the unity between a couple or perhaps even a family, depending if it's a wedding or a naming ceremony. This one comes from Cairn Candles. It's people I know up in the Highlands, used to work up there for a long time, and these are fabulous people. Now what I love about these candles is that although they're scented, they don't make me sneeze, because I'm allergic to everything, so I love this one. This is their rhubarb and black plum, and it is fabulous. So, I thought that bag was empty. No, I have found my plectrum. Life is good. I don't know how it ended up in there, as I'm going to put it in the back pocket for future reference. I was playing my ukulele last night. Was not going well. You can possibly tell that I'm full of cold at the moment, so it was a bit scracky. I will not demonstrate. Okay, so my next little baggie. Ta-da! I feel like I'm on one of those BuzzFeed videos where they're tidying their desks and revealing the innermost secrets of their personality here. Again, just useful things. Hankies. For the snottery and for the sentimental. Okay, so long matches for the candle I mentioned earlier. Long ones particularly because if you've got an outside ceremony, it's good to be able to get inside a jar. If you're lighting them outside, it's good to have them kind of sheltered a little bit. So a long jar and long matches. Stops them blowing out. I always carry a little teeny tiny pair of folding emergency scissors. Now that seems like a random thing to cart about, but if you've got a ring warming, for example in your ceremony where you're passing wedding rings around amongst your guests, it's safest to keep them tied together, and it means that when you do get them back to the front, at least you hope you get them back to the front, that they are still two together. I've heard horror stories, so I have scissors. It's all part of the plan. I have little tabs, so I use these in my presentation book that you saw earlier, and I use these to mark pages where other speakers might come forward so that they don't lose their place. Because quite often, even though we might tell them, please don't shut the book when you pass it back to me, they will. We're putting it down to nerves. So if I've marked the page, it means that I don't then have to stand at the front faffing while I find my page again. Now, we talked about essentials for ceremonies, and other than the ceremony itself and your presentation copy, there aren't that many things that are really essential. But if you are getting married, then we have to sign all your paperwork in black permanent ink to make it legally binding. So in this pack, I've got the first of many fountain pens. So this one is one that I was using for my training because it writes really smoothly. I find as an awkward lefty that my inclination is to smudge everything. So as well as having one with ink in, I take pity on my fellow lefties, and let's be honest, those who don't use a fountain pen on a day-to-day basis. And I also carry an empty one, which means that if you're having your pictures taken, you can pose. Here's one I prepared earlier, boys and girls. Sorry, I'm very aware that sometimes I'm looking at the camera and sometimes I'm looking at the screen of the phone, which is me looking off in the wrong direction, so sorry. I'll get used to this. Okay, other useful things. Pins. Again, another one I learned from Celebrants I was out shadowing. I think this one was Linda who was saying about pins. I also witnessed the magnificent Maureen Kettle rescuing a groom who didn't know what to do with his plaid, bless him. So pins are always handy to have about. Buttonholes are a bit of a tricky thing. We've got the family background in floristry. Proves that pins are definitely the answer to a maiden's prayer. Now, blotting paper. Not something you see often, and to be honest, not something I have to use very often either. Generally speaking, the ink will dry really quickly, but just in case, and just to kind of slow everything down, we'll use blotting paper. I've got spare ink cartridges, because inevitably it's going to run out when everybody's watching and your photographer's poised to take photos. More pins, because you can never have too many. We've got more backup scissors. Got needle and thread, so I've got black and white just in case there's a crisis. I have cheery colours in my proper sewing kit, which I keep in the car as well. We've got little candles, so you tend to find that if somebody's using a Unity or a memory candle in their ceremony, that it's easier to have a little tea light stashed away lit already so that they can light tapers or matches from it, and it just makes things a little bit smoother during the ceremony itself, so I always carry 2 or 3 of these. Finally, I have a little baggie stashed away in the corner, and this one is not something that necessarily every celebrant will carry, but I'm innately twitchy and like to overthink things. It's definitely a quality you want in a celebrant, and I have purchased for myself spare wedding bands. So if you have a crisis on the day, or should I say the person responsible has a crisis on the day, we'll always have ones it'll look the part for your ceremony at least until we get you sorted with your proper ones. Always keep a couple. And you can see here, we've already got these tied, so if you were going to do for a ring warming ceremony where you're passing them round your guests, they're already tied and good to go. So that's that little baggie. Now, in addition to that, we've got kind of everyday basics that I would cart around with me. Got a first aid kit, never anticipating having used it, haven't yet, in touch wood really quickly, but it's always good to know it's there in case you've got somebody who's got a blister on their heels, that kind of thing, so always carry those. I've also got, and I get most excited about this bit, bubbles. This was a tip I picked up from my fellow trainee Susan Fleming, who's based in Alva. She does a lot of naming ceremonies as well, and she was saying this is brilliant. So if you're having a crisis, maybe the kids are starting to drift away a little bit, bubbles. It also reminds me of that line in Blackadder when Baldric gives him a plastic duck in case he has to placate a difficult child. Here's one we prepared earlier, boys and girls. Now we come to little boxes. These are floating around in the bottom of my bag. I say floating, this one is actually really heavy. Because in here, what we've got, it's dead exciting. It's like those videos where they buy random boxes and don't know what's in it. I have, this is a paperweight. So there we go. So live well, love much, laugh often. And this one was the idea of Mary Wallace again. She has a lovely one that she uses in her ceremonies, and it just means that it sort of helps to set the table a little bit for your ceremonies. You might have something already planned and organised, but Lisa, we've got an emergency one just we need. And of course, particularly important if you're having an outside ceremony, do not want that schedule blowing away. Worst fear. It really is a celebrant's worst nightmare. Our little web page is filled with horror tales of going, I've weighed everything down twice and have an emergency backup copy. This one, I got really excited when this one arrived through the post. This is for one of our symbolic, I'm going to put teeth back in. This is for one of the symbolic gestures that we might do for your ceremony. It is a quaich. Now, quaich is traditionally used to show friendship, and it can be used in weddings as the first act of the couple after they're married, which is a lovely gesture. So this one, absolutely gorgeous. I love it to bits. This was made by a chap in the Highlands. It's just wooden quaichs is his website, and you can go and find him. He hand turns them, and it's just a little dainty one, so I like that it's portable, it's nice and easy to carry. Generally couples will have their own, but it's good to have an emergency backup, so I love this one. And I love that it's wooden, so it won't tarnish, and it just feels proper solid and very tactile. She says, stroking the quaich. I'll put it down now, that's maybe best. In here I've got bits of cloth. This one's actually an offcut for the bands I made for hand fasting. So I don't know if you can see it, but this white cloth really needs an iron, but it does have little hearts as part of the pattern. So I've got a couple of those that I made into hand fasting bands for that particular symbolic gesture. I don't have anybody else here other than the dog, otherwise I would demonstrate that, but that could look foolish. He's really not down for doing anything but napping at the moment. He's down there, snoring at me. So, a couple more boxes. We talked earlier about having blotting paper, and that we tend not to need it, but it's a nice gesture. So what we've got here is just, again, a little wooden one, just nice and light to carry. And if you're having an outdoor ceremony, you're going to have to lug all this. So I was trying to bear that in mind when I was buying bits and pieces for my kit. So I've got a nice little blotter here. So it just rolls, soaks up all the extra ink. It really looks the part. Now I have actually used it, and it just goes to show that this ink really does dry quickly, and we tend not to need it, but it's handy to have about. Okay. And last but not least, I store in here, although I probably need to find a more sensible place for keeping them, my business cards, because I'm a real qualified, fully grown up celebrant now. So here we go. So we all have these ones, and it means that they're all branded with the HSS logo, so the Humanist Society Scotland. It just shows that we're all part of that charity and we're all part of the same team. So I believe there are now over 130 of us in Scotland. I'm just so proud to be part of this society. It really means a lot to me. And last but not least, emergency note paper. Now that might seem like a bit of a daft thing. You've already written the ceremony. Kendall, why could you possibly need more note paper? Mostly for testing your fountain pen. So if you're signing anything, it's good to have a little bit of a practice if somebody's a bit nervous, and it just checks that the ink is flowing properly before you put pen to paper on your official wedding schedule. End up getting shouted at by the registrar. That wouldn't be you, that would be me. So for my own sake, I've got paper here just for keeping notes. So that's us. So that is what's inside a celebrant's kit bag. It varies from celebrant to celebrant. Some you will see they arrive and they've got your presentation folder, they've got their own copy of the ceremony script, and they'll have their fountain pen, and that'll be it. These are brave people. As I say, I overanalyze. I kind of get the fear that what might go wrong, and then I start putting more and more into this bag, so it's already quite weighty, as you can imagine, but I'd like to know that it's all there for emergencies. So that's me. If you have any questions about a ceremony, please do get in touch. I would really love to hear from you. As I say, I'm based in Stirling, but I'm more than delighted to travel about the country to meet up with you guys and to start telling your stories in your own ceremonies. Thanks, bye!